Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy GQAzndood, headmaster of the GQAzndood Gaming Academy. What is going on? It is Tuesday, October 1st. Happy October, everybody, and welcome to GQAzndood Gaming Academy, we are the ultimate school for gamers, where every session is a masterclass in button mashing and boss beating. Here, you won't need textbooks or homework, just your favorite controller and a passion for leveling up. Where you're here for the deep dives or just to boost your gaming IQ, class is officially in session. And don't worry, the only exams here are how fast you can respond. As always, we are joined by a healthy group of people today. We have a guest, but let me introduce you to our regular panelists here. Of course, the man on the street, right? The man against the brick wall, because he's street fighting all the time. Blazing Ace Nelson, what up, my dude?
What's good, everybody? Professor, good to see you too. And I hope y'all are ready because today's class is going to be pretty beefy.
Yeah, I'd say it's a little bit of a geography lesson and a history lesson, right? A little bit of math, maybe. So, but hey, I'm no pro in that. This is why we bring in this next panelist. My man from the corporate tower. I guess he's my insider too. I kind of think of him very highly as far as like getting the knowledge from a lot of the companies, right? He knows a lot of people too in networking, and he's a great asset to the team. We got Nick.
Hey, Professor. Hey, Ace. How's it going? Apparently coming at you from the top of Aristocrat Tower tonight.
There you go. That's right.
There you go.
Hopefully, the ending of my story will be a lot happier than that. I guess
See,
we'll see.
we've got advisory faculty all over.
Right, all over. International brand here at the Academy.
Yes, sir.
That's right. And today everybody will be covering a lot of topics where hopefully we can get it all taken care of within the time span that we have. But Tokyo Game Show is the big conversation for today. I mean, it's still going on, right, guys?
No, TGS is done.
Okay, I thought we were like day 4 or something, so I guess I'm a little bit late on that.
Yeah, like day 4 finished up. I believe day 4 finished up like earlier today or was it yesterday?
It ended on the 29th, if I remember right. Officially, the floor ends on the end of the weekend, so Sunday.
Gotcha.
There's still a little bit of news kind of trickling out, so it's okay if you don't have to feel bad or feel remiss about it. There's still some news trickling, so it still feels like it's happening. We still have that sheen of TGS on us.
Right, the TGS aftermath.
Yeah. What is that? It's kind of like the post con
crud.
Yeah, the con crud.
Yeah, it's the con crud.
Oh man, I think that'd be part of the dream is to go to the homeland of Japan and go check out TGS. That's like the E3 of
that
Japan.
is something I've always wanted to do. Funny enough, when I was my minor in college was Japanese, and for one of our capstone courses in that Japanese course for your minor is you had to give a speech completely in Japanese about something you wanted to do. And at the time I was learning the language because I wanted to get further into the industry, right? It made sense. Half the industry is kind of based out of Japan. So I was going to use that, jump up that corporate ladder, like you said. I actually gave a presentation on Makuhari Messe, which is the space where they hold TGS every year in Chiba. So it was really interesting to learn more about the space and then have to learn how to say why I wanted to go to this thing called TGS in a foreign language. A little hard to do, but I just remember it was a fun thing to look up and learn a little bit more about back when I really wanted to get into E3.
See, I told you this guy's cultured.
He's got to study different cultures to learn about cultures.
Facts, my friend, facts. So yeah, and this is something I think that I haven't said yet in the previous shows is that if anybody watching, if you guys want to support the stream, support the channel, right? I haven't done it yet, but soon we'll have some sort of way you can contribute, so we can send Nick over to TGS and do a live, probably broadcast from there. So it's a dream down the road, but we're gonna make it happen somewhere or the other. So. We'll figure it out. I'm still working it out. I don't know if you've noticed, but we're
about it. So.
Right. We're actually not using StreamYard anymore. This is our first attempt at Restream, because just better value for the show. But as far as that the rest is history. And speaking of that, we're going to be covering our next topic, which is today in
Smooth.
gaming history.
Very
Well.
smooth.
And if this is the first time that you've visited the channel, this is where we take a quick dive into the key moments that shaped games as the games that we love, from iconic releases to forgotten gems. Let's see what was loading this day in gaming. Well, and as we chatted earlier in the backstage, guys, there was a lot of bangers today. Stacked in a specific genre that I particularly like, which is the fighting game genre. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to start with something that isn't quite a fighting game. Well, I would call it more like a puzzle game. Can anybody take a guess which game that is?
Let's see, something that came out today. It's
A
more of
puzzle game.
Yeah, more of a puzzle game
Are
than
you?
a
Are
fighting
you?
game.
I'm not. You're not thinking about IQ, right? Intelligent
No,
Cube, or
they're still fighting in it, but I think it's more of a puzzle game.
was it
I don't know.
Puzzle
I was
Fighter?
about to say trying to navigate some of them jumps in Mortal Kombat mythology Sub-Zero. That's
Yeah,
that's a bit of a puzzle in itself.
puzzling
Well,
on the decisions made to bring that game to life.
I think you guys will see when I click on the screen here.
Of
Okay.
course.
Yeah. Yeah. So I always considered Super Punch Out came out in 1994, which is more of a puzzle game because you're always trying to figure out the pattern of the boxer that you're fighting versus just brute forcing it. And you know what happens when you brute force and Punch Out? You just get hit and you die. Right.
Yep.
So that is my pick. Very iconic game for the Super Nintendo. Even for the Nintendo, they even made it better for the Super Nintendo, in my opinion. Of course, with the deduction of Mike Tyson, we still had Mr. Sandman, Super Macho Man, and of course Bald Bull were the top three kind of like flagship characters from the first game back for the
Yep.
Super Punch Out as well. So. Yeah, I mean, I got a couple more here because today, like I said, was stacked, and I want to get through them as fast as possible. Another great one was Street Fighter 2 Alpha.
This is what we call the digital statistical impossibility because people are still trying to figure out how the hell Capcom managed to squeeze Street Fighter Alpha 2. Like legit one of the most sumptuous fighting games in the 90s onto a Super NES cartridge.
I am as shocked as you are, but we all know that there is a detrimental bug to this game when you load up the fight, right? And the reason, and I don't know if you played it on the Super Nintendo, but there's actually a pause that happens when the fight starts, which was apparently caused by an audio bug. And that audio bug caused that lag. And actually, one of the modern, I think, ROMers went back to it and dug in, changed some code a little bit, and fixed it. So that was pretty cool that he was able to do that.
Then I will have to find this and throw it on the ZSNES to see how it plays.
Correct. Not gonna be the highest quality frame rate for this game, but like you said, Ace, amazing how they fit this in a Super Nintendo cartridge when it was for Z Arcade, and especially in this kind of era where it was like highly animated, right? So yeah, very impressive.
And I actually had the cartridge for it. I would sit down and play this on the Super NES with my nephews.
Did you? Okay. This was like during the tail end of the Super Nintendo lifespan. And while this came out, they already had Street Fighter Alpha on the PlayStation, right? And so I was like, why would I play it on the Super Nintendo, right? I want to play it on the best system there is. So, but if you do have this in your gaming library, my hats to you. It's one of the rarest games out there on a Super Nintendo. Most games on the tail end of a Super Nintendo's lifespan or any console's lifespan is usually really relatively rare. So, with that said, speaking of rare games out there, the not so rare Sub-Zero Mortal Kombat mythologies. The reason why it's rare is because it's one of the most interesting pieces of MK video game history there is. It is a platforming brawler, which is not very known to be designed by Midway, and nor did I think they have much experience with, right? Because they're mostly porting out arcade fighting games during that time, with the exception of Blitz and NBA Jam. and of course Gauntlet. Who can forget that?
Mhm.
But it is substantially known as one of the most notorious difficult games and most frustrating games on the PlayStation and on console. So, anybody have any experience with MK Sub Zero?
I definitely
Mhm.
played it. I remember multiple times when we were testing PlayStation ones back in the day, and then PlayStation twos as well, because you had to test PSX games in it to make
Yeah,
sure that it would read them. I remember putting this game a couple times just to like relive the horror and show people because they hadn't seen it before.
it is. Yeah, it is weird. Like it's fully like FMV'd. Like all the cutscenes are like live action shots. It feels like you're playing MK like 3, but like on a big stage, and it's just. But the controls didn't change. And if you've played Mortal Kombat and you want to play a platformer with Mortal Kombat controls, you'll understand why this game is frustrating and awkward. Um, but yeah, go ahead, guys. What do you guys? These are my three. There was a lot today, but I want to let you guys take center stage. What do you guys got?
Ace, I know you have something
Oh yeah.
right there for us. What do you got?
So speaking of fighting games and speaking of genre-defining classics that came out this day in 1994, alongside the release of Super Punch-Out on the Super NES, one particular title was taking its first steps into the arcade and indelibly changed the arcade landscape from that point forward. That being the tag team crossover classic, The King of Fighters 1994.
Ooh wee! I'm gonna see if I can find some graphics. Keep
Oh,
talking.
Listen, y'all. Back in 94, you know, there wasn't really too much going on as far as like, as far as tag team fighting games, and especially with SNK, they still had a lot of their classics and they still had a lot of their classics in rotation, like of course the Art of Fighting games. Let's see, at this point, let's see if the first Fatal Fury was back in 91, then at this point we're probably hitting Fatal Fury 3, if not, getting onward closer to like Real Bout 2. But there was Samurai Showdown, World Heroes. Uh, let's see, as you would go forward, more SNK, more games would release on SNK platforms like Waku Waku 7 and Galaxy Fight. But when SNK decided they wanted to take all of their internal franchises and go, you know what? Let's just throw everybody together into the martial arts equivalent of the Olympics and see what shakes out. Next thing you know, you got Terry, Andy, and Joe representing Italy. You've got, Athena from Psycho Soldier, along with her cohort Kensu and their master representing China. You've got characters from SNK's different sports games coming together as the U.S. sports team, where we met Heavy D, Lucky, and Brian. And, just KOF 94, I feel like could very well be a precursor to what eventually became Smash Brothers. Because it was Nintendo, it was Masahiro Sakurai taking that same concept of, taking all of Nintendo's, taking all of a company's major hitters as far as mascot characters and in putting them together in a game to duke it out and, see who comes out on top.
All right, let me see if I can pull up a image here for you guys. This art that I found is actually I think the Japanese version, so it's a little bit different than the U.S. version, but it should
Yo,
be
it has an
still as
MK4
cool.
sneak preview on it.
Yeah, you don't know. You don't know, man. Let's see here. All
Exactly.
right.
Exactly. Andre said it best. KOF 94 is as apocryphal as Street Fighter 2. Right? It hit with that same impact once it came onto the scene. And of course, 94, 95, that was around the same time where, where the Sony PlayStation was starting to, where that system was finally getting ready to start hitting homes and hitting locations worldwide. And
Yeah.
KOF, actually, I think it was 94. No, it was 95. That would be one of the earlier launch titles for the PS1.
Chat, what did I tell you? I told you this man was from the streets, right? He knows. He knows his Street Fighter,
He's
his
from the
fighting
Street
game
Fighter.
terminology. Yeah, that's who he was born and bred, forged from the asphalt. That's
But
what it is.
before I go off into a 2 hour long, you know, before I pretty much start reciting my thesis for KO thesis on KOF, there is one other game that I wanted to actually mention. Something of a hidden gem of mine that came out on this day, and it was actually in this day in 2002.
2002. I'm excited. Okay, hold on. Give us a hint. I like trying to figure this out. Give us some hints here.
It's the sequel to another hidden gem, or at least another, underrated but still very well beloved gem from the PS1. The sequel, of course, came out on the PS2, and when I got this, well, just as a little bit of extra lore, when I actually bought this game on release, I was in college.
Okay. Is it a fighting game?
Ish.
Ish. Okay. Is MK Mythologies 2? I don't know.
It ain't Mythologies 2 or Shaolin Monks.
Okay, that was my guess. I'm done. Nick, what you got?
Hot
What do you
take.
think it is?
Of his choice, I remember getting the Neo Geo cards in for this and putting it into the Neo Geo player that we had because someone had sold us one of these not emulators per se, but they soldered in the actual like playboard to a joystick
God.
setup from the actual like arcade. So you
damn.
could slap in the cartridges and literally plug it into a TV and play it. I do not have a big history with King of Fighters, but I do remember playing this one a lot in arcades. It was one of the ones that was pretty common. I remember this Tekken 3 and Mortal Kombat 2 being the ones I'd regularly like go between. They had some older ones and some newer ones. So not surprised by his choice. It's an excellent choice. Like we were all talking about, this year in gaming in the past has had some serious bangers. There's a lot to choose from. You can't really choose wrong. There's some really good stuff in here.
Yeah, no, for sure. My question was, what do you think his next one's gonna be? He said it was semi a fighting game.
Semi-fighting, man. After screwing up the first guess when you were throwing it out there, I'm not even gonna try.
All right, Ace, you stumped me. What is it, man?
So my second game for this day in gaming back in 2002, Legaia 2 Dual Saga,
Gaia 2.
the sequel to Legend of Legaia on the PlayStation.
Okay, I know Legend of Legaia 1. I never really played 2.
Now, again, I say fighting game ish because the Legaia games were one of those series where the main combat in the game was actually more martial arts based, and when you would actually fire off your attacks, you would actually use the D-pad. You'd use the directional buttons left, up, down, and right to select attacks and put together combos and finishers based off of that.
Kind of like Xenogears.
Kind of like Xenogears, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, this is interesting because the first one was called The Legend of Legaia, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now it's just Legaia 2 Dual Saga. That's like, it's almost jarring for some people because I feel like they would be like, "Where's Legend of Legaia 2?" Right? So that's interesting.
Legaia 2
Right,
Dual Saga?
Yeah, and a large portion of that actually came down to just localization. Trying
okay.
to get the game in front of more eyes.
Hey man, it says it right on the front. Fresh games.
Bro.
Look at that.
Okay.
Tag on
First
it.
of all,
Fresh games by
okay,
Eidos.
can anybody look up that developer? Are they still around? Did they change names? I've never heard of them before.
Well, I don't know the logistics, but it says by Eidos, so
Yeah.
it was released by Eidos Interactive. I don't know if Fresh Games was like a team within them, because if you look up the game and like the Wikipedia behind it, it does say Eidos. So,
Okay.
but look at that tag, man. That you want to talk about from the streets? This man just tied it in with this fresh, certified.
Also, I'm gonna add that Ace, your choice is a little biased, my friend, and the reason for that is this man's wearing a Michael Jackson jacket with some fingerless gloves, and I know
Yeah,
that
right.
you're a huge fan of that. So, boo you, man, boo you, sir.
Boo this man.
Listen,
Biased.
I am not the type to hide my biases. Okay,
I love it.
you
Yeah,
get
Andre,
exactly what you see
Andre
on
in
the tin.
chat is bringing up a really good point. So I looked up Fresh Games. They are a label under IDOS to highlight obscure Japanese titles,
Oh,
including R-Type Final, Mr. Mosquito, Mad Maestro, and Swingers Golf.
okay, wow. Okay, R-Type Final. I actually owned that. I just
Look
wow
for that
this.
fresh tag, man.
Man, I must be blind because this orange border is really, really loud. So that's crazy. That's crazy. Wow. Okay. Well, I learned something new tonight, guys. That's I thought I was a gamer. I'm a fraud. I'm sorry. Um, but speaking of,
Just
yeah, go
because you're a
ahead.
professor doesn't mean you stop learning.
That's true. That's true. 100%. Andre, thanks for the knowledge drop. I would have never guessed. But Nick, what do you got for this game today in gaming
Uh,
history?
I'll make it quick, just because there's some games or things that released today that I think are incredibly noteworthy, that are worth to go over. Especially because I knew the man from the streets, Ace, here would drop some video games from the fighting genre on us. Prof, you do a little bit of weird stuff too. You throw in a couple
All the time.
curveballs. I'm going to go a little more mainstream just to bring up a couple things. The first one being on this day in gaming history in 1995. Twisted Metal for the PlayStation 1 released.
Yeah, today was
It's going to be the
Yeah.
international release. It's not the North American release, but it is the international release. And
all right.
Stefan
Let me
will
let me
say.
let me find some art for this. Give me one sec.
I did DM you in Discord the
Oh,
cover art of the 3 that I'm going to bring up.
oh,
But Twisted Metal, I don't know how many people played this or tried to look up any gameplay for it in the last little bit, but it looks terrible.
uh oh. The Sony execs got him, folks. Oh, are you there? Are you there now? I see you. We can kind of hear you. There was a hiccup in the Matrix. Let's see. I'm trying to pull up this Twisted Metal art for you guys. Let me see here. It's pretty cool, actually. It's very late '90s. IMO. Oh, look at that. Beautiful. Can you guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Well, that's
man. Look
annoying.
at that.
You hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Well, I don't know. Like you said, the Matrix got me. Sony didn't want me dropping this on them. I was the TV show being out and being renewed for season 2, if I remember right. Like, got to
Mhm.
remember it all started. I definitely played this back in the day. I remember going over to friends' houses because I didn't have a PlayStation 1 when I was younger. I had friends that had it. I bought one later after working at a gaming store. I remember going over to their house and they had Twisted Metal, Cars with Guns. Blew my mind. I
Cars
had
with
my
guns.
dad's
That's right.
Atari. I had my dad's NES. I eventually got a 64. I had a Sega. Didn't really have these kind of games on it. I know someone may bring up Vigilante 8. I didn't get that till later. But Twisted Metal was the OG and kicked off an entire thing. I think I remember liking Twisted Metal 2 a little bit more, but I don't know about you two. Did you play Twisted Metal back in the day?
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I
for
played
sure.
Twisted Metal
All right, a couple
1,
nods. Perfect. On to the next one. Let's be
Metal
quick
1 and
with these.
2.
The next one is more near and dear to my heart.
Mm.
Because the next one is one of my favorite, if not my favorite movie of all time. Had a PlayStation 1 release that was atrocious. Ace, do you have any idea what I'm talking about on this day in gaming history in 1996 for the PlayStation 1?
Let's see, favorite movie but had an atrocious PS1 release.
So, man, movie games are.
Atrocious PS1 release in 96. This isn't a recent thing.
Oh my god, this is good trivia.
Ooh. I don't know
It
why,
was
but my
the action movie of the year, I believe 94.
You know what?
95.
Honestly,
94.
if I wasn't manning the graphics, I would have said Independence Day.
Yeah.
That's what I would have said.
Was it Independence Day?
Not a bad guess.
I was
All
thinking
right,
something
throw it
like
up on the
Batman
screen for our
Forever.
panel.
All right, coming up. Let's see here. I had it. There it is. Okay, should be loading. Here we go. Oh,
Oh, bro.
It's gonna
the fifth
process, but it's right there for you.
there it is.
Bro.
That's the appropriate response. I would
Yeah.
say I've never played
I
this game.
loved this movie.
Uh-oh.
Oh, we lost you. We lost
blame you.
audio.
It's good.
You know, I always had this game confused with no, sorry. I had two other games confused apparently with this game. You guys remember was it MDK?
Mm-hmm.
On the PlayStation?
Oh,
and
yeah.
then the other one, which was The One with Bruce Willis. I think I blended all three games together and I was like, this is just the same game over and over again. So I
Wait,
don't know.
Bruce Willis, you mean
The
Apocalypse?
Oh, yeah, was that Apocalypse? Which one was The One? See, I got it all confused.
The one is with Jet Li, isn't it? With Jet Li and Jason Statham.
No, not the movie The One, the video game The One. There was a video game called The
Oh,
One.
okay. Sorry, I got confused.
See, apparently that's all confusing, so it's crazy. All right,
I was
let's
like,
move on.
movies? What? Yeah, no. This game was awful, atrocious. I still love watching this movie to this day. I'll watch it at least once a year. But this game I played once and never again. So that just is what it is. But that was 1996. The last one I'm going to mention as far as games go is just Final Doom. Final Doom released this day in 1996, so 1 year after Twisted Metal. This one I think is really important to talk about because it was pretty well received. It was a compilation of 30 levels from the PC version of Final Doom and master levels. So this was a great compilation for people who couldn't get enough Doom. This one was for the PlayStation, so it had all those extra levels in it. And I thought it was just a really cool thing to kind of like call out this day in gaming history. PlayStation got its Final Doom. One last thing, because we were talking about it in our last stream, what happened on this day in 2003 based around the world of trading cards?
Did Magic?
Because I know you two
sue Pokemon.
Yes, you are correct.
Okay.
So in 2003, this day, Wizards of the Coast filed a lawsuit against Pokemon over the Pokemon trading card game.
Okay, so yeah, so I don't know the details of it. Were they suing because they were threatened by it, or they were like, it's too close to ours? Like, what was the premise?
Excellent question. Let's look it up while you move
Okay.
on to the next thing.
No, all good, all good. Yeah, no, this is
I don't
cool.
remember
This
all
is
the
cool.
details either. I just saw that on the list. I'm like, no way. After everything we were talking about last time.
No, that's neat. It's a neat topic to talk about because we are going to be covering different aspects of gaming here. So, but yeah, well, as you're looking that up, I do want to let everybody know we do have a fourth panelist today. If you're watching, he's actually one of our more dedicated viewers. I see him on stream all the time, shows up all the time, has great insight on video games. But he can tell you that right on stream. We got not the red, but the blue riot bot.
Hey, yo, what's up? It's the local Concord expert and fervent note taker, TGS.
Good to have you, man.
Concord expert. I am so sorry.
This man, you know, like that's
Were you the
sign.
last person playing?
Yeah. He was. I was at
He was
Gamers
the
on
last
right
one
now.
trying to get that.
Yeah, he was trying to get a platinum trophy on it. Dedicated. But yeah, we just want to add him on for TGS as we talked about it because we do have a lot of to cover on that. Yeah, any info on why Magic sued Pokemon? I mean, aside from corporate greed, I'm assuming.
It's a great deal. It's pretty complicated. I won't
Yeah,
try
no,
to figure
good.
this out right now. But one aspect was the accusations of the Pokemon USA soliciting and hiring at least 7 former Wizards employees to work on the Ruby Sapphire trading card game edition, including Wizards' former art director, senior graphic designer, business manager, and events marketing director.
There it is right there. They got poached. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So big positions up top, moving to the other side kind of thing. So in a sense, yes, what you were saying.
Yeah. 100%. If I was Wizards and I saw my previous team, creative team, join another company and they made a trading card game, I would be upset too because Magic was to me, I think one of the first big trading card games, and lo and behold, now Pokemon is like up there with them. So yeah, I'd be salty too. No
Yeah,
joke.
it's super interesting because it's something you don't. I completely forgot that this had happened. It's not surprising if you work in the Seattle area, especially around the area where I was in Bellevue on the east
Mhm.
side, because there is obviously besides Microsoft over the Nintendo has one of their headquarters right there in Redmond. A little bit down the road around the hook there on 405 is going to be Wizards of the Coast. So these are all happening all in the same area. So it's not too surprising to see talent move around. In one of the offices I was able to work in, I got to know some people who still work on the Pokemon TCG because they're in a similar office space. Obviously, I can't talk too much about that, or I don't know them that well, but just in passing, talk to them in the break room and stuff. It's really interesting how much like talking between and different industry professionals you just get to talk to on a daily basis randomly just because of being all kind of crammed in that same area.
No,
So
it's
seeing talent move around like that, not
yeah.
surprised.
Yeah, and I think Japan too. Back in the '80s, they had. This is why they had really weird names for the credits, is because they didn't want other companies poaching their talent, so they didn't show them who they were. Ace, you probably know about this. You're a Capcom guy, right?
And I
You know
mean,
all about that.
hell, there were ex Capcom people that went to work at SNK.
Yeah, I mean that's how you got the rivalry. This is like history repeating itself, right? Capcom and losing employees going to SNK, Magic the
Yep.
Gathering employees going to Pokemon. You got to go where they want you, where they need you. Got to recruit them all. You know what I'm saying?
So
So
just on the note, just because we have the awesome, amazing, and always talkative Blue here, did you get your
Hello.
platinum?
Wait, what?
Did you get your platinum for a Concord?
I didn't. I think out of here, I'm the most knowledgeable on Concord. But I couldn't justify paying $40 for that game after the open beta.
oof, that's the man. I like I s- You know what's funny?
You mean the open beta that you paid $40 for?
This is
No,
the
no, that was a
No, the
closed
open
beta
beta
that
was
you had to pay for.
yeah.
The open beta was free.
No. You purchased the game. That's the open beta.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I guess.
Oh, he's making a joke. Don't
I
mind
get
him.
it.
I think honestly though, I think the beta was longer than the actual game's release life
It
span.
might have been. It had 2,500 people.
Oh, oh man, that's rough.
That's how good the open beta did.
Man, let's just keep punching this dead horse.
Yeah, we can
Please.
move on. I was just kind of making a joke about that because I've been researching it, but
No, all good, all good. Anyways, on a lighter note, somewhere around the world, a little place called Japan, they had their own version of E3, also known as the Tokyo Game Show. And this is big for them, and this is big for us too, because a lot of the games come from Japan, right? And I think our panelists today have an arsenal of games that they want to talk about. Anybody want to volunteer? Who wants to go first? I got 3 in my pocket right now.
If you got 3 in your pocket, teach, lay it on us.
All right. So the first thing I do want to talk about before we get to game is talk about the nature of conventions, because man, I do miss them. I haven't been to a convention in a long time, and everybody knows that E3 doesn't exist anymore. We're just now relegated to the Video Game Awards, and what was the other one that Keeley creates?
Summer Games Fest,
Summer
which
Games
is
Fest.
a
Yeah.
weird thing, honestly.
Yeah, they're pretty much the new E3s. But the thing that I really miss the most, I would say, is the ever popular booth babes at all these conventions. So I'm a big fan of them. In Japan, of course, different country, different rules, and I haven't seen a booth babe in a long time, but I also haven't been to a convention in a long time as well. Nor have I received free swag in a long time. I feel like I have to pay for everything now. So just things have changed over time. And one of the things I noticed about their presentation, because I do like seeing like the decor and kind of like seeing like the decorations and I guess these the stages in the background, how cool they are. What was that? The mobile game Nike or Nikkei? I don't know how do you pronounce it. It's Nikkei, right? They had a Nikki, right? They had a gotcha, pretty much a wall of like gotcha women. So they were.
Oh,
I'll try to find an image of it. But it's super funny, and it's super like that's kind of what the game is all about anyway, aside from the third person shooting. But a lot of the guys play it because they're a lot of cute girls, anime waifus, so you're just rolling with it, and I love that. So
Goddess of Victory, right, is the one you're talking about?
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Nikke.
DK, yeah, super cool. I actually watched a few streamers play it. It has a weird post-apocalyptic storyline, right, where the characters don't make any sense, but it's a video game. It's not supposed to make any sense, right? So, but actually, the game that I really wanted to chat with the most before I let you guys take the wheel here, is I really wanted to cover. Let's see, what do I have? Let me just double check. Oh, that's not it. That's not it at all. Hold on. Let me change that. Yeah, take a look at that one. Let's see here. Oh, and there was also, and Ace, you'll see this. There were a lot of cosplayers there.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was like one of the things I really wanted to show off because I like missed that, about conventions and stuff like that. I mean, like I said,
Not just cosplayers, being there, for themselves, but actual like official cosplayers.
correct, yeah, and that's kind of the thing too. Is it wasn't that it's like I also haven't been, so I can't really say much about it. But let's see here. I think I had it right here. Give me a sec. Boom. This was the game that I really wanted to showcase to everybody. Okay, so Phantom Blade Zero, another from another Chinese dev, which I think at first look everybody thought that this was going to be another Dark Souls game because that seems to be the trend these days for for video games, right? That's what's hot. That's what's in. But no, it's actually I've seen a little bit of gameplay. I watched a little bit of actual people like streamers play it on the demo. It's a little bit of MGR, right? A little bit of Dark Souls. It's almost like Stellar Blade, but leaning on the MGR side. But many of them have said that the ones that have played it, it plays like Ninja Gaiden. And I'm all about that, right? And one of the things that I really enjoy about Phantom Blade Zero is the animations because they do a lot of I think the term is wuxiang, right?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of wuxia choreography.
Yeah, wuxia choreography, and they're just leaning into it, man. Like, look at this animation right here when he's slashing up the guy. Like, that is so cool. Here's the thing: it looks cool. The other thing I want to look for is, does it feel cool, right? Like, if I don't feel that I'm doing damage to this guy or my hits just have impact, it's also going to be kind of a dud for me, right? But when I played Ninja Gaiden, I did feel that, but kind of adding this MGR kind of portion to the Ninja Gaiden action, right? I think it's a good combination of the two, and I'm really, really looking forward to playing this game.
Yeah, it's that heavy, visceral sort of action from Ninja Gaiden with a lot more of the agility and a lot more of the speed and the dynamic and kinetic movements from MGR.
Yeah. So right here it says during boss fights, and it seems like there will be many. Thank you, because those are the best duels in the games, right? Combat intensifies and shifts gears to require more reactive play style. Here, there's a larger emphasis on patience and waiting for openings to counterattack, evoking all too familiar feeling of the various Souls-like titles players have been bombarded with over the past few years. So, I think that's one way to say, hey, this is not a button masher. You can't mash your way into a victory in this game. I think fighting grunts, that's okay. They're just grunts. But when it gets to a boss, I feel like bosses need to be a little bit smarter, right? And you need to fight them a little bit more intellectually, I guess. So you're just not pressing square or X furiously. Okay. You guys have any input on Phantom Blade Zero? It's like my game of the year that I'm really looking forward to.
Well, like I said, I'm right there with you, man. Sign me up. This Phantom Blade Zero looks like it's going to be fantastic. Like after looking over some of the stuff from TGS, I've pretty much told the viewers on my stream that, especially first quarter of 2025 is going to be 2000 and broke for me.
Right after we talked last week, too, A's, like the moment we started looking at February as AC Shadows got pushed there as well. That month of February is already stacked with games, and now we're getting more games pushed to it. Like it's already goodbye wallet.
Yeah, I think Blue. Do you have anything to add?
I guess I'll kind of add on to the fact that we continue to compare everything to Souls likes, and it's a really bad thing that that's the only comparison point we have nowadays. We really need something else.
True.
Well, I think you're right on that, and I think the reason why they say Souls like is because that is what is popular. Like when you say it's a Souls game, they know exactly what to expect from it, right?
They know it's hard. That's what people look at Souls. That's why there for
That
a
too.
time people kept saying it's the Dark Souls of blah for a while.
You're right, absolutely correct. And I also think that could be a detriment to a game if they think, oh, is it going to be hard? Then I don't want to play it, right?
Yeah,
I would even say that, like putting the moniker Soul like on it, I can tell right away I'm not going to play it. That's just me. It's not my style.
Yeah, but if I said it's like Ninja Gaiden or Metal Gear Revengeance, so that kind of pique your interest more.
Metal Gear Rising Revengeance, yes, just because that was over the top and fun and more about like quick time events and just like action nonstop. Souls like just reminds me of more like methodical kind of gameplay. To Blue's point, that just Souls like became a catch-all for the industry because the industry likes friends. So you're making a game to try to capture that same kind of success. So you make a Souls-like game, and then the media and the vernacular around the entire industry becomes Souls-like, and then things like you said get put into that jar. It's the unfortunate way the buzzwords that we have, the marketing, the media. It's the same thing I was going to say about TGS. When you think about conventions, where you're going, my background's in marketing, so I go to a lot of different conventions myself, and you always think about like the construction of your booth, the thing you're going to say, the people that are going to be there, how it's going to look for that specific audience in that specific area. So what you were talking about with like how the booths look and stuff, what they have at TGS is pretty unique. You can look at stuff even like I've seen videos from 2002 and 2008, and they're pretty similar for what to expect there. You know what you're getting at TGS. That's why people like to go there.
Yeah, I think too. Like, I just feel like Japan just knows what their audience likes, right? I just
Well, you
feel
can see
like
that in the announcements too. The games that were announced, even at Xbox's thing, because they've been trying to break into the Japanese market for years now to kind of like middling success. But the games that they announced during their thing, and I'm sure we'll talk about that, really heavily lean into that. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
To speak to that culture, that market.
No, I love it, and just as much as I love this animated GIF that I'm watching on loop, and I'm just like salivating how cool it looks. So, I mean, it's never do I talk about a game that I'm excited for this much, and like this one just caught my eye among the ocean of all the other games that's been announced. Right? It's just I'm all about it. The fast action, the aesthetic of it, like. When was the last time we played a game that was like this in Chinese martial arts? Except Wukong.
I was about to say Wukong just came out.
I was about to say, let's see, Wolong Fallen Dynasty.
Okay, but that's a Souls game. See, that's what I mean, and that's kind of like that's what like what you guys were talking about. That could be going against it too, because you hear Souls game, oh, it's hard, and I want to try it, right? Because people want to feel good when they're playing. And I think there's some sick individuals out there that like Souls games, and I'm one of them.
Yeah.
But like the most and the majority will just want to act cool, be cool in the games that they play and feel good, and they want to win, right? They have a tough day, right? They want to just be a hero in a game outside of the real world, right? And that's kind of
what Andre brought up was the one I was going to mention too. Sifu. There's plenty of other games that are really only released in China that are going to be a little more broad of what you're kind of looking for. It's again, this being announced at TGS, it's no surprise more for market there for these kind of games. You're not going to generally get this here in the West. We got what was that, Naraka, the PvP Blade game. There was another like really cool. I can't remember the title of it, but Eastern influence, like watercolor kind of like action adventure game. I can't remember the name of off the top of my head.
Is it already out?
No, I don't think it's out already. I think it was announced at the Xbox event last year, and it's still not released. I'll have to double check, but again, that's not what we're seeing.
Yeah.
here.
It,
Like Andre said, E-Day, getting Metal Gear Delta is going to be strong in both markets. Doom, kind of big in both markets. But yeah, just look at the list of stuff that was at the TGS showcase. Do we want to talk about that right now, or did you have more to say about Phantom Blade Zero?
No, I'm good. What we got next?
Well, I mean, I've got some gameplay in the background that Konami released this video care of Gamers Prey, but how excited are you for Metal Gear Delta?
Let me pull it up. That was actually one of my picks, so let me pull it up if you want to chat about it. Let me see here.
So for me, it's always about the original sound for this, like that James Bond open over the top. I love the Snake Eater like opening song. I didn't play this a lot back in the day. A friend of mine is a massive Metal Gear fan, and as I started hanging out with him more over the years, I started going back and playing a lot of these games. But just seeing the care that Delta got, because if I remember right, it was an arcade only. Like, wasn't it a pachinko game that was released that was Metal Gear Snake Eater? Like,
after the latest Metal Gear game, they went all pachinko.
And then
they turned everything into pachinko. They had Silent Hill pachinko games, and those are canon, by the way. There's story in pachinko games, so have fun figuring that crap out.
Well, I mean, with this in mind, it was one of your games. Are you looking forward to this one, and why are you looking forward to this one? Because if this does well, we could potentially see something in this vein with this kind of quality for something like Sons of Liberty, which is also very well regarded and highly sought after.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons, well, it's Metal Gear, right? I always want to try every mainline title that I've kind of fallen in love with, whether it's better or worse, right? I do want to give it a shot. Also, as you know, I'm a game collector, so I got to have it part of my collection. But the biggest thing that I really curious about with games that are remastered is how much did they remaster it? Like, how did they remake it completely? Like, for example, Final Fantasy VII, and then the remake was two different games, right? They even, but this one, I'm curious which direction they took, and I'm more curious about why they decided the philosophies behind those choices, right? So, but this was also another generation. It wasn't PS1. This is PS2, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the technological differences are shorter than the PlayStation version. So we may not appreciate this as much as a remake than the PlayStation 1 version of it, right? This is why I was kind of like, why didn't they just do Metal Gear Solid 1? But Twin Snakes already came out, and I understand why they wouldn't do that, right? But what I'm excited for is, like, if the PlayStation 2 can handle all those weird things that it did when that game came out, what can it do now on a PS5? Right? Is everything gonna have weight? Right? Can you just stuff fall out of your pockets because you slip? Like, those are the things that, like, I always intrigued me about Metal Gears, because this game likes
how are they going to expand on the camouflage system?
Yeah, exactly. Like, how creative can they be in when they design this game and kind of like offer that like more open approach to how you play the game? Because Metal Gear is often can be played in a variety of different ways, right? Depending on you can go in there guns blazing. You can do that no problem. But it's also like, like you said with this one specifically, what kind of camouflage do I favor? Right? Like, how do I want to play? Do I want to do just melee all the time? Do I want to use guns? Do I want to use the environment around me? This wasn't really the first time we hit the open world era where you create your own story, but at the same time, you kind of chose the way you wanted to play, and I think this is why this game is bigger than Metal Gear Solid. I'm a fan of MGS1 just because I like the story, I like the characters, I'm all about that. But I know MGS3 was the big one because of all the variety of things it offered the player, and that's always a win for me.
Mm-hmm.
I know that with Delta, one of the reasons I believe they kind of wanted to lean on this one was because it took place early in the storyline. So going back to the beginning and kind of seeing how this gets laid out, because one thing that Metal Gear is incredibly notorious for people who are not familiar with it, is its lore. Incredibly complicated, incredibly deep. Nothing in terms of like Warhammer, like we were talking about last week, that's a whole nother like giant pit. Like, this is a little bit different. The big thing about this one, and the reason it's a good reason in the first place to have this discussion, is a lot of the feedback that we're already hearing about this is it is incredibly faithful to the original game. It is not like Final Fantasy VII. It's not like the Silent Hill 2 thing that was redone, right? This is almost no hairs out of place, a faithful recreation of it, just updated in, I believe it's Unreal 5.
Ooh.
Yeah.
There was a couple of quality of life features I think I remember them talking about updating, and maybe like a sprinkle or two of like some MGS5 like menu or mechanics stuff. But for the most part, this is the same game, just updated to Unreal 5. So thinking about that value, like, are you looking for something new? Are you looking for something that is what it was, just updated for quality of life? We've had these kind of conversations in the World of Warcraft sphere with the Classic coming back. Like, do you want it to remain faithful, or do you want to have quality of life updates? Like, where's the line, and what are you going to be willing as the consumer to pay for, right? So what is it hearing that?
Yeah, what that reminds me of, is, the line that was, I guess, straddled with the development and release of Star Ocean, the Second Story R. Like the most recent ports for like the PS5 and the Switch. It's pretty much just like you said about Delta. It's damn near a no hairs out of place, recreation and glow up of Star Ocean the Second Story, just with more of the quality of life features added from like the more recent ports on the PSP, and even having a team actually go back in and take all of the original previously pre-rendered painted backgrounds from Star Ocean 2 and turning them into straight up full on 3D rendered fields.
Yeah,
Blue, any thoughts?
Yeah, go ahead, Blue.
Well, I would say it's so faithful that I'm pretty sure I saw a interview where they were talking about they used the archived audio from the original game, which surprises me because a lot of Japanese devs, even back in the PS2, used to delete all of that crap. So that's impressive. The other thing I kind of noted was I don't think MGS Delta has appeared in a PlayStation showcase, and I think we know why.
Yeah. I can take a guess, but I'm pretty sure the audience knows exactly why.
I kind of just took that note as I said MGS Delta going green.
The thing that I'm more interested in, and this is
No pun
because
intended, because it's in a jungle target.
was our conversation, Nick, about like how games are kind of like perceived by the audience, and not just by like the ones that are knowledgeable with games, right? The ones that are the what they call in the FGC the filthy casuals, right? So like MGS is a stealth game, right? And does it port? And so I'm gonna guess like maybe new players would be jumping in, learning about this game for the first time, right? They won't have the memories and the emotional kind of like weight that we had when we played this game from the very first one. So they're gonna come at this with a blank slate, and they're gonna go purely from the trailers, from the reviews, and the influencers, right? So I'm really concerned about this, more so because like, is the stealth genre still like kicking? Like, I can only imagine some guy like, oh, I want to shoot everybody in this game. I'm a Call of Duty guy, right? Then they play Metal Gear and they're like, oh, this is not exactly what I thought it would be, So that's my little fear about this game.
In response to that, because I think you do raise a good point, I am not a fan of stealth games. However, this is not something like Star Wars Outlaws, where a stealth mechanic is shoehorned into a game that doesn't feel like it needs it, or changes the pace so much it takes you out of it and kind of lessens the enjoyment for you. There's a time and a place for all of it. There's a reason I play Assassin's Creed so much. It's fun to actually get into that like sneaking around kind of thing. This is an older style of game, and we've talked multiple times about how modern games haven't scratched that itch for a lot of people, and we may need to return to older approaches to games, or just kind of like a reimagining, right? Or just a refocusing. I think this will find more of a market than we think, because it is a very well done. It's won awards, it's won accolades, it's known very well in the industry as a very good, if not one of the best stealth genres, period. So if you bring back something like that, update it, maybe fix some quality of life stuff, this may be the right time to do it, because we are getting, to coin the term we were saying earlier, a lot of live service games, a lot of Souls-like games. Like, this
Good
is
call.
something different. And how long has it been since we've seen something like Splinter Cell? If we'll ever see it again, So I think this has a big chance to revive interest in it, and then we're going to see things come along, Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty, or just moving that storyline forward. I think that was something they thought of when they brought this back. Yeah, I do see it, and even if it wasn't or isn't my genre of choice, just watching the gameplay of this, like, I'm intrigued. I want to try it. Right? It's something different, and when the game from the get-go is designed to be stealth and not shoehorned in, I think it's gonna have a little bit more than we think.
Good. I'm hopeful, because I want it to succeed. I want more, right? I want them to get to MGS2, like what Andre said, right? And not only that, if Konami starts succeeding with Silent Hill 2 and this, I want them to make a Zone of Enders 3. Like, that's the part that I think everybody's kind of been missing, is that Konami just has some hits in their library, and they're just, I don't know what they're doing with it, man. And I'm kind of saddened by that, because Konami and Capcom were like my two big, monsters of game companies when I was a kid. So, anything else, guys?
Not specifically to Metal Gear, just in general, like we were talking about before, for anyone who didn't get to see a lot of the stuff that happened at TGS. Again, this being the Japanese market, the Eastern market, StarCraft 1 and 2 is going to be in Game Pass in November. I'm pumped for that, because I love the originals. And if I remember, it's the remastered 2 of StarCraft 1. So that's awesome. I can't wait to see that. We're getting, I think they released some more stuff. We Love Katamari Reroll is on Game Pass.
Nice.
Has a huge following. Dragon Quest III HD, the HD 2D remake, it's a new class. Final Fantasy 1 through 6 are finally on Xbox. The Suikoden remasters
Yep.
like perks as well. So yeah, I mean, there's more stuff beyond that too, but those were kind of the big things that leapt to me as like really big stuff that we don't usually hear about in the Western market, that were really cool that they brought out for this, that I think have like larger implications. Like, all really good news. I know it's Xbox focused, but that was the main stuff we saw there from TGS. So it's definitely worth talking about. Even if you're not an Xbox fan, it's great to see some of these GRPs get some new life. I remember, Jason, we were working together at the retro store, the Xbox generation. All of a sudden, Xbox had all these GRPGs. One of my favorite being Lost Odyssey.
Don't talk about that one. Jeez.
Right? I mean, between stuff like Lost Odyssey, let's see, Tales of Vesperia, Magna Carta 2.
Yeah, it was shocking as someone who followed the industry enough to know that you got the JRPGs on the Super Nintendo, the PlayStation. We didn't really get that on Xbox when it first came out. So when 360 hit, and we started seeing these like big titles come out. Like with Lost Odyssey, that was Mistwalker, if I remember right. That was Sakaguchi there and did that. Like, I love that game. It is so good, and I'm sad that it never got a follow up or anything. But that's just an example of that kind of jumped the market a little bit and kind of shocked people a little bit. So don't discount that. There's some really good stuff that we saw in TGS in that market that I think are going to be great things on making.
Yeah, I mean, before we move on, I do want to add that I want to see Xbox step it up in the Japanese market, because Sony needs that competition. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck paying for overpriced stuff because they feel like they can't charge us for that. So, competition, brings out, what is that?
Competition breeds innovation.
Innovation. Yeah, we need that. Like I said, I'm happy for Xbox. Don't get me wrong. I want more people to be playing JRPGs on the Xbox. So that's good to hear.
If I remember right, there was one more thing from there you were looking to talk about, or is that?
Oh, on Metal Gear?
It was after Metal Gear. I think it was.
Oh no, I wanted Ace to go next. So.
Oh yeah, cool. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, so Y'all know me. Y'all know fighting games, beat 'em ups. That's my jam. I could talk as long. I could go on for as long as there are hours in the day about Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, about Rushing Beat X, about Double Dragon Revive, which all got playable demos and more footage at Tokyo Game Show. But the one that just sideswiped me, that I did not expect to have such a strong showing for what it was. And I have footage of the TGS floor show playable demo for it
Ooh.
queued up on the shared screen. Dynasty Warriors Origins.
Oh
Now
boy.
there was some new stuff in this that there's some new stuff in this that I was not expecting to see already. But the playable demo at TGS is the battle at Sushui Gate, which ends with a battle against what they refer to as, hold on, let me make sure I got this right here.
The biggest challenge of the Dynasty Warriors series is usually, everyone always says it's repetitive, and there's not enough innovation for the next I guess the next series or the next title to have like any investment in, but this one's looking a lot promising.
Yep. But yeah, they refer to him as Omega Sigma Lu Bu.
Oh boy.
Listen,
Dragon Ball Z roster thing. Like, how many alternate versions of Luke are we getting?
listen. I thought Lu Bu was bad before. Like
Oh, no.
my brother got me into Dynasty Warriors with 3, and he hazed me by having me, help him out on the Yellow Turban Rebellion stage, and then he's like, "Okay, now play this stage on your own," and it's the Battle of Hulao Gate, and I decided to pursue Lu Bu.
He did that on purpose. He set you up.
Exactly. He set me up, and I took the bait, hook, line, and sinker. I got fucked up.
Baited.
There is no going around it. That was my pop quiz.
You got taught that day.
I learned.
You learned.
Now, I'll just go ahead and start playing this footage. I'll turn the volume down so that way it's not like drowning us out as we discuss it. But
Yeah, you're good.
boy, howdy, is there a lot to unpack with this. Firstly, let's see if I can actually catch a view of it. But yeah, firstly, with each of the maps that come up, you're actually, like how in the Empire's expansions, how you have the war councils to discuss your strategy before going out onto the battlefield. They
Yes.
took the war council setup and basically incorporated into like the prologue between each fight. So now you actually have all the generals, meeting around the table, and then once they discuss the strategy, then you're going into the character equipment scene where you can choose, which of the generals can actually accompany your player character. And here at the war council table itself, there's a couple more character confirmations that people might have already picked out, but for the folks that are familiar with Dynasty Warriors, let's see. Center screen right there is Yuan Shao. You got Yuan Shu over on the right-hand side. And since this is taking place, early in the timeline, then you've got a younger Liu Bei
Yeah.
alongside a younger Cao Cao with Chen Gong and Sun Jian.
I'm so glad they made that distinction. That's cool.
So you've, as more of this game is being shown off, you're seeing more characters, more fan favorites coming back. And you'll notice that as the game is actually kicking off, as the fight is kicking off, just the sheer, the focus on the sweeping angles making the battlefields look so much larger.
It's true. I am getting that feeling too. Like that camera angle difference makes a whole big makes just gives a more cinematic feel to it.
Now, at this part right here, let's take it back to what we were talking about with Phantom Blade Zero, with how when you're dealing with the grunts, it's okay. You can just go ahead and button mash or spam your light attacks and your heavy attacks. Like folks normally do in the earlier games. Like people have come to know the Dynasty Warriors and Muso genre games for just button mashing. Now, psychopaths like me who actually really sat down and dig into these games go, look, you can button mash and have some measure of success, but if you really want to get that power fantasy, you want to get in there and you want to look badass, then take your time, learn the new take your time, try and dig into some of the nuances of the combat system. And with this, it's actually being brought more into the forefront, because with the generals that you're facing off against in each of the scenarios, you'll have to deal with breaking through their defenses first before you can do any sort of substantive damage. So not only do you have to land your attacks, but you also have to keep an eye out for opportunities to parry, to evade, and yes, they added an active parry to Dynasty Warriors.
Oh, that's sold already. Act parry sold. Anything in that game, any game that's parrying.
Can you parry basketballs? That's all I need to know.
No, one of my biggest requests for any new entry in Dynasty Warriors was to make the combat against the other generals more interesting.
Oh, to make the combat against the other generals more interesting, there is one bit of news that I'm going to just go ahead and lay it out for you right here and now. You remember how the duels handled in Dynasty Warriors 4?
Yeah, when they make a circle around you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Remember how they handled in 6, where it was more real time, but still you had your 1v1s and you were surrounded, and the circle that they made around you was literally like half of that circle was your allies and the other half was like the enemy, and depending on which side you got pushed toward, you would risk being attacked or like shoved back toward the center.
Yeah.
They brought that back for Origins.
Oh.
And it's actually at a point where when you run up on certain generals, they will challenge you straight up. They will challenge you. They will say 1v1 me, bro,
in Chinese.
and it's time to throw down.
No, that's awesome, man. Gosh, that's good to hear, because like I'm always like, how are they gonna freshen up the series, right? Because I was a huge fan of 8. 8's great. Extreme Legends, of course. And then I actually skipped 9 because for various reasons. So it's and then I switched straight to Samurai Warriors 4. Is that right? 4, right? Or is that 5?
I think 5.
5. Okay.
Yeah, because 4 came out while 4 Extreme Legends and Empires came out while Dynasty Warriors 8 was on the market.
Yeah. So 5, the anime one, right, with Nobunaga.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's and I also played like, what is that, Koei Warriors or whatever it was, right? And so I just want something a little bit different, and I'm already liking what I'm seeing here, so I'm excited. And it's been a while since the last Dynasty Warriors.
There's also a few other wrinkles that they added to the gameplay for this as well, which I think, let me see if here's a perfectly good example coming up, where again, as I was mentioning, you've got the camera angles showing off, larger, more sweeping angles of the battle. But part of what you can do, part of what it's encouraged for you to do, especially near the start of the game, is to stick with the armies that you are running with. This is not something where you can just run ahead and be Billy Badass. If you hang back and move with the unit, you have the option to command said units.
Oh, a little bit of this Kessin or Bladestorm. I can't remember which one did this almost. So
But yeah, you can command those units for allied charges, which not only helps as far as like, dishing out more damage, but also morale comes into play heavily here, because if your army has greater morale, then not only does that make your ally AI, more powerful and more aggressive, but conversely, if you've got low morale, then you're not going to have too many troops to command when you try to do those rallying charges.
Yeah. I also noticed in the past entries that like when you had low morale, like the computer was more aggressive when you're surrounded. Noticed that too.
Yep.
So.
But let me cut forward here real quick because I want to get to. Let's get to the part.
The part.
The part. Okay.
So also, is it me or did I just never hear Dynasty Wars in Chinese before?
Dynasty Warriors 9 was actually the first game dubbed in Chinese.
The one I skip, of course.
Yeah. But yeah, here we go. Lu fecking boo.
Yo, field's on fire.
Like if there was ever a point where facing off against an enemy commander actually felt like just a straight up boss fight, you're looking at it right now.
I just love that they're just juggling him there in midair and just like.
Well, look at all the dead
like
bodies.
the
Fighting
ragdoll
on
on
a
it
mountain
too.
of bodies.
I think another. Oh my god!
Wait for it. Wait for it.
I'm scared. I'm not even playing. I'm scared for him.
Right?
I love the other soldier that's right there, like the peon essentially. He's just like poking him in the back while he's like slamming you into the ground, like choke slamming you.
He's like, and Lubu's
Guys,
just
I'm
over
helping.
Can I help you, sir?
Okay, I'm
That's
actually
like
quite
a
impressed.
much better
of
version
all
of
the
Kingdom Under Fire, if anyone remembers that.
Yeah, I do remember.
Oh
that.
yeah.
Very.
Oh god.
I'm quite impressed with all the bodies on the floor. I actually did not expect that to be there.
And there you go. That's game.
That's that. We were talking about this is the
That's
Dark
what we need
Souls.
that now. They shared in Discord.
Lubu is the Dark Souls of all character bosses. So, well, release date was like what, February, right? On this guy,
January 25.
basically
So
February.
very close to February.
Yeah, very close to February. Gotcha.
Like I said, first quarter 2025 is 2000 and broke.
All right, so Blue did have a game of choice that he kind of wanted to audible in here. So let me pop that in for him here. This is
Figured
the
I figured I'd pick something that I like that no one else would have picked. Because my first pick would have been Origins, but I knew Ace was going for that.
No, this was legit. Like I think I'm interested in this game also. So let's see.
Well, we're sticking to Koei Tecmo, and that's a little hint for everybody. I sent you 2 videos on it. The first video is kind of more of just an interview thing. There is some gameplay, but it's mixed in.
Okay, is it me or does the main character look like Tifa?
She kind of
Possibly.
Okay,
It
Koei
would not
Tecmo.
surprise me if that was an inspiration.
I see what you did there, Koei Tecmo.
But,
Let's keep that playing.
This is Atelier Yumiya. Let me get that full title because it's always a big one. Atelier Yumiya, the Alchemist of Memories and the Envisioned Land.
Okay, so tell me why this game, because I know this has a long series of other games too.
Well, I guess I should say the big thing that I'm a big kind of Atelier fan. I've been for a while, and it's basically what I call like a comfort RPG.
Okay, that's
Very
a first.
often it's not high stakes. It's like, hey, let's fix this village, and you kind of just do really banal stuff, and then eventually you end up fighting something kind of big like a dragon.
So the first thing I thought of when you said that was Dark Cloud. Is that accurate?
I've never played Dark Cloud, so I couldn't tell you.
Guys, can you guys chime in on that? Have you guys played Dark Cloud?
No, it's definitely. Yeah, the Atelier series definitely has that sort of, you're starting from the mundane,
Okay.
Yeah.
and and you work your way up, basically, like the bulk of your experience in the game is just, again, just that kind of cozy vibe.
I
It's
get
I
the
very
mean,
comfort
it's very
food.
low stakes at the
Yeah,
start.
and
Yeah.
I get the comfort food thing that you're saying too when you approach this one, because what I remember, James, at your point for Dark Cloud was more like an action RPG that had like city building elements
gotcha.
in it. Like this one, I know it's way more focused on like the storytelling behind it.
Hmm.
But I mean, obviously, Blue's the expert here.
Yeah. Well,
I gotta say, man, these character models are fire. These are
Right?
pretty cool.
they've been getting better. Gust has like slowly been getting more and more money to be able to make their games, so that's been nice. But Atelier is made into trilogies, and so every trilogy kind of does something really different. There was a city builder trilogy back. God, I forgot what that one was called. It wasn't the Mysterious, but that was way back in the day. But your goal was to rebuild this like kingdom, and so it would be really nice once the princess married the prince of another kingdom, and you weren't just going to be rolled over and taken over and everything would be crap. But there's always something kind of different. Like the Ryza trilogy was kind of more like friendship and summer vacation vibes.
Oh, the power of
Um,
friendship.
yeah,
Yes.
The power of friendship in
literally.
anime.
That, and also, as every Atelier game goes, by the end, you're just carrying bombs that do 10,000 points of damage. That's what these games
Carrying
And
practicing.
it's cozy. Jesus.
It's cozy. It starts out cozy, and then you hit a boss that you can't beat, and you're like, okay, it's
You know,
time to just get into a nuclear program.
But
we
no,
yeah, go
watching
ahead.
that combat footage though,
It, I
2,000
actually,
and broke.
well,
Right.
I
So
have a second video that I sent to GQ,
Let me see.
and that gives like just a straight fight without any cuts. It is very reminiscent of the Tales of series, which I'm kind of
I was
excited for.
just I was
Yeah.
just gonna say the Tales of games, especially the last few, like Arise.
Mhm.
Yeah, that reminded me a lot of that, like having A and B arts. Like it definitely looked like combat more like that. I just remember the Atelier games when I was younger, when they were a little bit older in the series. I don't remember them quite flowing like that. So if it's gonna like shift more towards like Tales,
They
I definitely want to play it.
they change every trilogy. Like there have been turn-based ones, there have been somewhat action ones. There have been also they always change how the crafting works in each one. So it's always kind of a new discovery when they start a new trilogy, and that's another reason why I'm kind of excited for this because it's a new thing. It's just a completely new package. If you didn't like stuff in Ryza, you might like stuff here. If you didn't like stuff in, I think it was the Mysterious trilogy, you'll like it here. Um,
Well, I definitely dig the Tales series, so there's some crossover for me.
yeah,
This is great. I haven't played any of them, but like the presentation, the character models, it looks interesting. Like I'm like, I give it a shot because it looks cool, right? And
yeah.
goes back to what we talked about a few classes ago, where I was like, the first impression matters because that drives the people's attention to be like, I just want to try it out. Is there a demo?
Yeah. Well, typically the gameplay thing is you go into like an area like of monsters and stuff, and you have a time limit, the day. And once that day is over, and time is always moving, even in battles. So you got to kind of collect what you want. Sometimes you want to pick berries and crap, and other times you have to fight monsters to get the better materials to make the better stuff. And so it's sort of a time management thing. And I'm curious how this will be because there have been some games like the Dusk trilogy where there is I think it's like a year long period of time you have to do everything before that period ends. And other times, like Ryza, there's no time limit at all. It's just kind of do whatever.
Hmm.
There's usually enough time to do everything though. So, like I said, it's very laid back. It's not going to be. And I also have seen some clips of battles and stuff, but also I've seen they're bringing back, I think, some gardening. Also, there's going to be like a house you can decorate, that type of
Ah.
stuff.
Wow. Like, see, here's the
Yeah,
thing.
that's
I
pretty
would have
in-depth
never
description of what it looks like.
I would have never taken my time to learn about this game, right? But you talking about it, I'm actually more interested now than ever before. So this is
Yeah.
why it's important to have these discussions and kind of like get these like recommendations from other gamers out there because you just never know. Like I like watching that, I'd be like, that's another turn-based JRPG, right? Like for screenshots and like but there's
Yeah.
kind of listening how you were kind of experiencing it and watching it a little bit and the interesting character models. I'm like, you know what? I kind of want to go back and check out all the other ones as well. So no, that's really cool.
It's really interesting too because a little bit like after you mentioned, I looked at some of the older ones. Like the big selling point for the series is that it's more like a lighthearted, fair kind of stuff, like really insular kind of stories, kind of relaxed thing that have a timeline
Yeah.
associated with it. Some of the older ones, and then this new one, like the story is that alchemy is outlawed, and you have to like fight back against that. So it's like it's almost like it's kind of getting a little bit mature, a little bit more like nuanced in its story. So who knows?
Okay.
It'll still be relaxed. Dusk was
Yeah,
like
still be
the end of
relaxed.
the world is happening. Get everyone kind of happy so they don't die sad.
that's like their
Sold.
like when they go in their meeting. This is the game we're making, and they just describe it the way you describe it. All right, what else you guys got for TGS? I know there's lots to talk about, but we're only running low on time.
Well, I kind of, like I said, I took fervent notes. One thing that I think all of us would be interested in is Threads of Time.
Okay.
I put a link to that in the Discord as well.
Yeah, I'll get that for you.
And you'll kind of figure out what it is really quickly.
So
And you
I
probably
do
saw the
I do know a little bit about this because I did watch the thumbnail caught my eye, and I was like, okay, I see what you're doing here, and I think you guys will agree. So let me just double check and let me put this guy on here. So once you guys see the sample, I want you, before I start playing the video, I want you guys to kind of like, hey, what does this remind you of? Okay, let's see here. Where'd it go? Does this remind you of anything?
And they ain't slick. They can't just try and mash together Kingdom Hearts and Chrono Trigger.
That's exactly,
And not think someone would comment.
that's exactly what I was thinking about. Look at this. What is this?
Bruh.
Yeah. I was like excited and also confused at the same time.
That's really cool.
That transition was dope.
Yeah, that's
the
really
style
cool.
they're doing.
Look at that. Come on.
Yeah, it looks great.
Ah, man. See, you don't need like AAA money to make good games, guys. Just have a good, vision and art direction.
Have good direction.
Good direction. Period. You're right.
400. What the?
having I mean, we've seen so many projects fail lately
cool.
just because
Look at
there wasn't
this.
a unified vision for the team, right? And a lot of that comes down to the people at
Oh,
the top
someone-
and guiding this kind of thing. So
Yeah.
from the get-go, you can
Give
tell.
me my Chrono Trigger remake, damn it.
You can tell from the get-go they had all of that in alignment.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very well realized. It looks
Oh,
great.
That looks so
It
cool.
nails the vibe, and you just kind of, like you were saying, you can tell what they're kind of playing homage to in a couple different frames and stuff. So yeah, no, I'm excited.
Yeah, this was probably I kind of knew the Atelier thing was coming. I knew an Atelier game was coming. I didn't know what it would be called, but this was like the one surprise I was like happy to see.
Xbox and Steam. Okay, I'm gonna need this.
Guys, what are we looking at here? This is the Chrono Trigger scene.
It is.
This is amazing. This is amazing.
Yo.
All right. Release date. What is it? Apparently the panelists are sold already. So we're going to buy your game, Rio Studios. Good job. So that's all it took. You guys just, took advantage of our nostalgia. Hate that.
I hate that they're calling out exactly what I want and are selling
Yeah.
directly to me.
I hate
Right?
that. Stop it. Stop it.
But the big thing about it is, it's like, this isn't something that just immediately feels cynical and mass produced.
Yeah.
I mean, like, let's face it, blatant nostalgia, blatant nostalgia baiting is very obvious to scope out. Right? Something that, okay, here's the best way I could articulate this. For every TMNT Shredder's Revenge, for every Streets of Rage 4, you've got G.I. Joe.
Oh yeah, I played the demo for that. That was not good.
See, the funny, because the first thing I thought of when you said that was the PS3 Retribution G.I. Joe game that was made after the movies.
What is that?
There was a G.I. Joe game, a shooter that came out like on the PS3 era, if I remember right. It was like based on the movie property.
Like, when you've got something that's
Rise of Cobra on the 360. Sorry.
But when you've got
I remember that.
that's not necessarily taking an established IP, but again, just pulling a lot of inspiration from that sort of more, I guess, that more earnest, more experimental gaming, game design philosophy. Again, the kind of philosophy and mindset that brought us games like Chrono Trigger and like, the early, like the first Kingdom Hearts, like Vagrant Story. Most, damn near every single JRPG on the PS1 and during that era.
Hold that thought, Ace. Actually, I do want to, when we close out the when we close out the podcast, I do want to go back to that because I do have some thoughts about that exact topic. Right, kind of going back to like when I brought out Metal Gear.
Right.
Is the modern audience, is this next generation of gamers who are not familiar with the nostalgia of certain games, will these games have the same impact just on their own kind of merit, right? Kind of like I'm getting at too. So let's put a hold on that because it's a really good topic to chat about.
But I'll just say this: that game that we just saw right there at the time, that right there had the same impact for me in terms of, like, when it comes to re-experiencing classic JRPGs, that LC did for me with with the platformers and the running gun games like Mega Man.
Yeah.
No, what was it? I think that was my experience with like Space Marine 2. It brought me back to like when I first touched Gears of War, right?
Yeah,
And I was like,
that's very much Gears of War.
Yeah, and I was like, man, the games were a lot more simple back then. Maybe I'm an idiot,
Yeah, and they've been in the media lately too about comments made about just why they designed the game the way they did. They wanted to bring it back to this feeling of just fun in games kind of thing, and just their approach to it and why they made it simple in that respect. And there's a whole conversation that can happen around that, but it's just like, it's definitely on the minds of people lately, right? About how we approach games and how we interact with our games, just wanting sometimes that nostalgia, but at the same time a nostalgia for a simpler approach to a game. Ace, like you're saying with Threads of Time, just a simpler approach to the design, steeped in that, vein, but with an update to a new story. It's not just reliving the past, but it is influenced by it.
Yep, looks like we lost Blue.
Hopefully he's doing okay.
Dropped his phone in the toilet.
Did you guys have? I only have one other game that I really want to feature tonight, and then we can move on to the next topic. But do you guys have anything else that you guys want to share?
That's it for TGS that I had. Just the notes we already talked about. Some of the really cool games we only saw in that market release. Some really cool stuff.
Right on. I'll make this super quick then, because this one is. Oh, he's back. There we go.
I'm back.
All right, this one. I don't want to talk about this one too much, but I do like its art. Big what do you call this, fan of artwork in video games, and this one just really captured my attention, right? So even this marquee up here, woo boy, that is pretty sick, right? Right now, first Berserker Kazan. If you guys don't know what that is, he's this takes place in the Dungeon Fighter universe, and lore wise, Kazan is the first Berserker, which is a class that you can pick in Dungeon Fighter online, or also DF. What is that? Dungeon was DFO, and what was the other one? The new
And
one.
DNF Duel.
DNF Duel, yeah, that one. It's like the same words, but I forgot. From the gameplay, it looks like another, Code Vein, Liza P, as they say here, Souls-like game. And when I say Souls, I don't know. I've never played the game yet, but I'm talking about like a lock-on mechanic, right? Timed attacks, methodical, very challenging and often more difficult. I don't know how they're gonna take on this version of the game, right? But I'm strictly more talking about this as far as an attention grabber, right? Because like I said, like you guys said, there's like the industry uses souls like anybody else, right? So it loses its meaning. It could mean and also have different meanings. But I'm only kind of featuring this today because if I saw this on the floor of an arcade or a convention, will I walk up to and ask questions, right? And
So freaking
yeah,
lootly.
yep. And like I said, the marquee and the artwork for the game have really kind of like gotten my attention on it. Like, look at this. This is so cool, right? And just these like screenshots. Oh, look at that. This is the art direction on that. So cool.
And that right there is more, that's kind of a signature that that DFO is actually, kind of built up over its tenure on the market, just from the MMOs to the fighting game to this, that sort of almost hazy kind of backdrop with the focus characters being in that stark contrast. It's very eye catching.
Yeah, and I think like if you're not a fan of anime, right? I don't think this will be the appropriate art direction that you want. But and this is where the second layer of your interest comes in. How does it play? Does it play good? Does it play? I can kind of like be patient with the art, but if the game is fun, and I feel like those are some of the things I consider when I make a purchase. And that's kind of like a lot of the things that I think a lot of reviewers and other publishing companies or whatever, review sites don't really consider when they talk about these games. It's like they just talk about it in terms of like, is it fun? Is it good graphics? But they don't see the attention grabbing and the initial perception of said game when of people that don't have any history with a game like this. So that's very interesting to me. Okay.
It's like they say when it comes to, culinary arts and culinary presentation, people eat with their eyes.
It's true. It's true. And this is why I say like that we talked about, we're going back to Concord again. The visual appeal of the game is important, right? And so people have to like what they see before they actually play it because it attracts it to them, So
Yeah.
but in defense of Concord, you know, whatever's interesting is subjective to anybody, right? Just not for in this case, I don't think a lot of people enjoyed it. The majority didn't enjoy it, but I'm sure some people did, and like I said, a lot of people don't like anime, right? So they might not buy first Berserker Kazan.
I think it was also kind of what we were talking about.
Yeah.
It was released in a space that basically allowed people and forced people to draw comparisons to what was on the market. So having the direction that they did, I can't say it was necessarily bad. It may be for some people, it may be what they wanted to and what they decided on. But then it's immediately going to be compared against something like Overwatch, which is pretty well renowned for its character design and direction, right? So even if they had a plan, even if they did have what they wanted, it's going to be in a space as compared to something like that kind of set the standard for something like that, because it is about the characters, right?
You're right.
I would say the biggest comparisons were probably made to the Marvel Rivals game, because all of those designs are top notch. And
They were pretty cool.
they are.
I
Even if you
think.
don't
Sorry,
care
go
for
ahead,
that
Wood.
type of game, you everyone loves how those characters look in that game.
Yeah, Jago said the big thing was that Overwatch took inspiration from TF2. Now, here's the thing: another game came out when Overwatch was also announced, which was its technically competitor at the time. You guys know
Oh yeah,
Battleborn,
yeah.
right?
Oh, I was thinking of Cliff Blazinski's thing.
Oh,
Lawbreakers.
Lawbreakers. The reason why I chose Battleborn is because they also had the same art direction as Overwatch, right? Now, like they had that like kind of like Fortnite, like TF2 look about them, right? And what made to me, in my opinion, what made Overwatch beat Battleborn wasn't the actual gameplay or how the characters looked. It was because of the character trailers that Blizzard did for each character that was available for when it was released. Battleborn didn't do that really, and so I guess like tying these awesome trailers, and I got to give it to Blizzard. They're really good at that, making these awesome trailers for a character, right? It made people drawn to the game more because they want to like empathize with the character. They want to be that character. They can relate to that character.
Right.
Battleborn didn't have that. It was just there, and I was like, first of all, this is like a League of Legends game, but I didn't realize it until I started playing it. So that
Yeah,
was the other thing that was weird.
And then for those of us that were still, you know, for those of us that for those of us that are like really big into looking on YouTube for information about certain games as well, as Overwatch was coming out, and as the character trailers were coming out, there was also one other thing that may have played a small part for most people, but definitely played a huge part for me in terms of damn near getting me into the game, and that was a lot of the content that was coming out from certain YouTubers, in particular the rapper Dan Bull.
yeah. They were doing betas all the way up to the launch for like 9 months, and people were getting hyped for it. Which compared to Concord, they only had the closed beta and the open beta, and also I don't think Nick was here for when I talked about the cutscenes they had. If you ever get the time, go look up the Concord cutscenes. They're not terrible. They're just boring. They look great. They're
Yeah.
very pretty, and the characters actually look better in the cutscenes. But
Cutscenes are expensive though.
they are, and I
That's
have
the
a feeling
problem.
that's where that $400 million went, because they said they were going to do weekly cutscenes, and
Really?
I bet
That's
they
that's
had that at least.
crazy.
Yeah.
That was what they advertised on.
Yeah,
Oh
they
my
were
god.
advertising doing weekly like little cinematics in order to expand the story and lore of the universe. It was like
Bro,
a weekly digest, kind of like here's more of the story, like piecemeal. They were gonna like breadcrumb out for you.
that's insane.
But that in itself is again, and it's only because it's that same market. But
They
Overwatch has Blizzard behind it, and Blizzard, if they're
Yeah,
known for
well,
anything,
Blizzard
is
had that
amazing
animation.
trailers.
Oh man, you are not wrong about Blizzard having amazing trailers. I'm pretty sure I watched the Warcraft 3 trailer teaser like at least 30 times a day. I was like, I want to play this game so bad.
Look, man, I get almost like pulled at like if you want to talk about being upset about being like called out to by advertising or market
Yeah.
driving me nuts. Every single time WoW comes out with a new expansion, I will not buy it. But the trailer makes me want to.
Yeah.
They craft
Yeah.
trailers so well
Yep.
there.
That
So whoever they
is
have behind
facts.
that, whatever team is on that, it tries to pull me back in so hard, and I hate it.
I think it's funny because Pirate Software, Thor's dad was actually the cinematic director. So it
Yeah.
was probably him doing all that to us.
Thanks, Thor's dad.
Thank you, Thor's dad. Odin, let's call him Odin. Thanks,
on,
Odin. Thanks, Odin. But yeah, going back to what you were saying, Ace, right? Let's circle back to that, right? And tell me a little bit more about this, because it's very interesting to see like the next generation of gamers like the stuff that we like, but will they like it in the same way we liked it during that time? Because games were much more simple back then.
Right,
You
they
know?
were. And
Yeah.
you know, honestly, if I'm going to answer that question, will they like it the same way that we liked those games back when they
Spoiler
came out in
alert,
their time?
no.
Honestly, yeah.
Does it have a battle pass?
No, 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 no.
Simple
No,
answer to that
let
is
them,
no.
let Ace cook, but spoiler alert, no.
Exactly. Just the simple answer is no. But if you want to go in detail, it's no, because not only are the times different, but just let's see, the times are different, the tastes are different. It's like you could set the same pizza in front of 5 different people,
Mm,
but
pizza.
but dollars to donuts, you can bet that each and every single person sitting in front of that pizza is likely going to pick out a different flavor or a different ingredient on their first bite.
If they're anything like me, I'd get all one of each. That's what I would do. You know.
I think that's a good analogy for how you consume games, right? Say you like the taste of pizza.
Yeah.
Pizza rolls are a thing. They're exactly good for you, but man, I love eating them, right? And that's just building on what Ace was saying. It's the times, it's how we approach, it's also how we consume our media. What we're getting out of games today, what the next generation of gamers is going to want, is going to be different than we had it. So these games that are coming out that play like those older games will find a new audience for sure, but it's going to have different quality of life updates. It's going to have different ways, more in-depth ways of telling stories. I think that's really something that doesn't get talked about a lot. Is a lot of stories with a lot of these games, and I'm speaking to like Blue with the Atelier games, and then with the like Tales of games. They've really made that more nuanced and complex. Maybe not super deep. It can still be popcorny, something easy to consume and enjoy, and it won't get super deep on you. But it's gotten better and better, and you can say that about a lot of different things. Not always even. Some pizzas are made worse than others. It's maybe the same ingredients, but the hands making it, you're going to get a different product, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the way it's going to be
And that's
always. So I think there is a little bit of truth to the same time. Like it's
right, and
just
that's
we can't
and that's
expect it to be
another
the
thing.
same.
There's so many variables. Again, it could be the individual palate of the person consuming the product. It could be the hands making said product. So just if you're going by the numbers, if you're going from a empirical standpoint, you know it's not gonna be the same. I love the hell out of Mega Man X4, X5, 6, yes, even 7, and especially 8. I sit down and play Elsie, and it takes me back to that time. But someone who hasn't played those games yet could sit down and play Elsie, enjoy it the same way I do, but again, just get something different out of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the same thing we were talking about with Dead Cells the previous week. The kind of Metroidvania thing, and when they released the Castlevania DLC for that, it was feeling that Castlevania gameplay, but with the bones of Dead Cells behind it. A different way to consume that, to appreciate it and still kind of get that same feel. You got old and new pulled into that.
Yeah, this was something I was thinking about before the stream throughout the week, was that like, the consumption of video games and how kind of like we consumed it as a child versus now, because games are a little bit more complex. We didn't have internet back then. We didn't have online play. We had people come over and play. The changing of the times means the changing of the technology and how we consume the technology via media, right? So the thing that really kind of like rattled my cage was, will a kid around the same age as me back in the day appreciate Chrono Trigger for what it was now, especially when there's so much more competition and pixelated 2D games aren't as sought after, even though back then that was awesome. That was like top tier graphics, right? Will they just kind of go, or just go back to playing Fortnite? That's kind of like because it's popular, right?
Some
And I don't,
will. That's just the reality.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
To play multiplayer games with your friends that you
Mhm.
hang out with on a day-to-day basis than it is to play a single-player game. That being said, another aspect, you kind of mentioned the internet. One thing I'm kind of worried about is the internet, while great, has also kind of destroyed the mystery of video games. I
Facts.
think we've all had something that we played as a kid, and we discovered like a secret, or like, hey, did you find that secret door in the Ocarina of Time? And then you tell your friends about it at school, and they're like, "Oh, cool, I'll go do that." And it's that type of stuff. You don't.
You had to pay to talk to the people at Nintendo Power.
Right.
Yeah, you don't really get that
$1 a minute.
anymore. And when people are like kind of stuck, they don't. And we're guilty of this, I'm sure. Nowadays, people, when they get stuck, after a while, they just look up a guide real quick, and like, "Oh, that's what you do," instead of trying to
Or
figure
if
out
a
what
game
to
is
do.
incredibly complicated, like I've seen this said lately about a game that just launched free to play today, was Throne and Liberty, an MMO. There's been multiple people saying, because it was released in Korea previously, that it's the kind of game that you can't really enjoy it properly unless you figure out a build guide ahead of time,
Oh
right?
God,
If you want it,
yeah,
if you want to be able to play it efficiently and enjoy what you're doing, because it's not set out in a way that allows you to have the freedom of, like, oh, I want to try this build. That didn't work out. I'll go back to this. You're going to
yeah,
lose a ton of time by switching up your build and going to a different weapon, because you start back at level 1 with that weapon type, right? So it's just like, that's just an example of that. But I think everyone's kind of hitting on some very good points of just what's another problem that we see is just think about all the games we have in our backlogs, or TV shows that you can't watch with all the different streaming services. There's just way too many options out there. We can't get something like Chrono Trigger, nowadays, because there are so many other channels and places to get games, to play games, to consume games, to figure out information about games. Kids today are going to be overwhelmed with that. They're going to pick what, like you said, they eat with their eyes. This looks good. I'm going to go with this. I'm having fun with this, or my friends told me about it. They can't see the market as a whole, whereas back in the
yeah.
day, there wasn't that many rules all at once trying to vie for your time. It's just, and that's just a reality that we're in right now. We have to live with it. Just like the games that we do end up playing from our backlog, it's like, I know I want to play this game. I'm going to put time into this. All this great TGS stuff, Ace, that we're talking about, all this stuff that's coming out in February, I know I can only afford to really get 1, maybe 2, unless I have a service that lets me have it, like, GameFly or Games Pass, right? So it's like you're still devoting your time to specific things, because that's just what you can do. There's just not enough time in the day to play all these different things that call out to us.
That is, man, you guys are all speaking facts today. I'm a little bit saddened by this like new generation of gaming. I feel like I'm getting to that point where, like, man, things were just less complicated back then. you know? But
Yeah.
it is what it is. You guys are
That's
correct.
just
We
how
have to
the
adapt
world
to the
is.
times. What's that, Blue?
That's just how the world is. I have noticed that as some kids get older, like I work, and I have some Zoomer coworkers who have started playing, single player games more and more, because their friends they're not in high school anymore, and their friends kind of moved away, and it's harder to hang out with them. And so they're I've been talking to them about stuff. So I think it's going to be kind of a situation where a lot of people are going to be moving from multiplayer to single player, maybe not in the biggest swaths, but still happening, just to, for something to talk about and do.
I
So it's
think
not
you're right.
all.
I think, like, there's like, for every AAA live service online multiplayer game that is viewed by the media, right? There's this like single player indie game, cozy game that everybody secretly plays. That, like, for example, I didn't know Atelier was a cozy RPG. you know,
Oh yeah,
so like that's what I mean. Like, and that's single player, right? So I
Let's
think
go
it's
back and
just,
play another Like a Dragon game. So, I mean,
yeah.
I've got my comforts.
That's what I'm saying. I think the way I was thinking was that, like, those were the games we were forced to kind of focus on the story, the graphics, because it's just you and the game, right? Well, as these multiplayer games, battle passes, there's FOMO involved, like there's a time limit constraint on this. Like, man, video games need to calm down, but
We
but
Right.
we can
There's a lot of
complain.
outside factors.
Yeah,
yeah,
and we can honestly complain all we want, but we kind of made our bed with a lot of this stuff in the industry. The way that we interact with games, it's all about the bottom line and making money. Otherwise, it can't keep in the doors. Those sale tactics work for a reason. We may feel crappy using them in our
yeah.
own work, but FOMO is a thing. Battle passes are a thing, and microtransactions are a thing. Blizzard has made so much money on Diablo 4's microtransactions alone. So are we surprised that there's a potential new game coming out in a Blizzard property that is going to be made by NetEase, who did Immortal, that made tons of money for microtransactions? People may not have played it, but it made its money back because people buy that stuff. So
yeah,
that is the unfortunate reality and truth for sure. I do, to quote Thor from his Pirate Software, and I hate quoting him a lot, but he does have a lot of great insight because he was like,
he has some great insight.
Yeah. He talked about how the budget for StarCraft 2 or the sales for StarCraft 2 versus a skin on World of Warcraft. Did you guys hear about that one?
Yeah.
That made me so sad that like a skin on World of Warcraft made like 10 times more than the sales of StarCraft 2. And here's the thing. I just played StarCraft 2 this year. I'm a late bloomer. I bought at full price because it's worth 3 games, right? And I was like, this is cool. It's 3 games. Loved every minute of the single player storyline. I was like, why didn't I play this sooner? It was so good. I couldn't put it down.
I bought it day one and I felt the same. So, I mean, but I also played the heck out of the original. So it was kind of like, for me. So I'm not surprised. Like, I enjoyed it, but
that's the thing too. No, that's the thing too, is that like I had some time away from StarCraft, right? I know what it's all about. I know the story. And there was nothing around me that was like, hey, play StarCraft. You know, like I was just like, hey man, it's about time for me to play StarCraft 2 because I want to finish the story, right? And I played it, and this game is what, how old now? Like 10 years old? More? Maybe? Right? And I was like, wow, this is real quality. I was like shocked of like the quality of game it was for what kind of game it was. Like for an RTS to have a really good narrative, I was like so shocked and just impressed by it. And
it's almost 15 years old.
Yes, and I played it this year, and we're talking about it right now, and I had a better impression on me than most games I played this year.
Was it the 1990s, 20 years ago? Like,
I played Fear for the first time earlier this year, and that's jumped to the top 5 FPS games I've ever played. It is genuinely an impressive game.
And that's what I mean. It's like, is it the games that are changing? It's clearly like if people are paying for these online services, it's working. That's what they want, and you know the guys in their ivory towers want their money, right? And that's why they keep doing it. I understand that, but like the fact that we're still and appreciating these older games now. Is that the times changing? Are we just stuck in our ways, or is there really a need for single player games with great narratives for the next generation? Are they missing out because they're stuck playing online on Fortnite all the time? You know what I'm saying?
No,
I think it's a combination of all of it.
Sorry, go ahead, Bill.
I was saying I think it's a bit of a combination of everything. It's not typically it's not just one thing. It's a combination of stuff going on. There are some aspects of gaming that we will miss and will never come back. You know, I miss cheat codes. Cheat codes are never coming back because there's no reason to put them in games anymore. And
or when they are the quirky thing for an indie game. There's a game that I remember getting for free from like Epic Games Store. I'll have to see if I can look it up. But they had, once you beat the game through once, it added cheat codes that you could just put on. It made the game hilarious.
I love it when games do that. I wish more would do that, but they don't. Unfortunately, it's sad.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. It's like it's been relegated to that. It's like a quirky thing they can throw in for extra for free. You know, like at the end of something. Like, go ahead here, you can replay it and maybe give it some big heads.
Yeah, I think Seafood did that a little bit. They didn't really do cheat codes, but they added more options for you to play the game differently after you beat the game, which is wonderful, by the way. I love that.
Crow Country did that, which go check out Crow Country. That was a really good game I played this year. Little Resident Evil type game if you want that.
So we got about 5 minutes left here, and I noticed that we missed out on recommendations. So for the audience, and for the chat, just give us your 2 minutes on what game you recommend playing. Even could be current, could be retro, whatever.
You know what? I'm gonna put something in the Discord. I want you to just do the trailer. It's what I've been playing a lot. and I kind of told Ace about this in
City of Wolves. Yeah, I
I don't
definitely
know.
want to play a City. I definitely play City of Wolves. Um, this is tough. So my recommendation. Go ahead, Ace. You were going to say something.
Oh no, I just took a look and saw what Blue posted up, and yeah, that's definitely gonna be that's definitely one to check out.
Yeah, I actually saw people playing this on stream, and this is definitely a stream worthy game, almost as worthy as the National Championships Switch edition. That's like stream fodder,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
But yeah,
I'll put I'll
UFO
put it over
50
here.
is definitely one to take a look at.
I'll put it in chat for everybody to see. Yeah, I saw a bunch of people playing this game, and I was like, this is cool. This is right up my alley. I want to check it out. It's very quirky.
I
Right?
love it.
Yeah, I love it. Astrobot, yep. I haven't played it yet, so I can't recommend it, right? But I would say right now, for me, my recommendation would just be Dave the Diver. Just because I know it's a little bit older, but I seem to not be able to put that game down when I pick it up. I think it's because I'm playing like two different games. I'm playing like a farm sim, right? You're hunting fish, you're putting them in farms, and then the other part of the game is I'm serving food at the sushi bar, and I'm like, all right, I want to make more money, and both modes synergize with each other, and that's why
Kind
I'm
of
like
like Battle Chef Brigade.
kind of like that. I'm playing like two games at the same time, and then I think that's why I can't put it down. I'm like, I can't decide which one I like better. I'm just like, I gotta keep playing. I want to see what happens next. How much money can I make? Right? There's a lot of things in there.
Right. I would definitely say my recommendation, and I had it up here. Here we go. Here we go. Let me go ahead and pop the. Let me go ahead and pop the link to the tweet here in the Discord for y'all. But again, sticking to my bread and butter. If you are up for something interesting in the realm of beat 'em ups,
Mm.
the one man crew behind Fight and Rage has
Oh,
actually just released a little something new today.
oh,
Oh, really?
Yep, they call it what do you call it? Back Alley Warriors. But it's a real it's got a real simple hook. It's you. It's like there are 100 of you. It's you versus 99 others. How long can you survive?
That's so great. I love the premise of that.
It's very simple. It's very quick. Just drop in, drop out. It's digestible. It's bite-sized brawling.
Man.
It's fun.
Nick, what you got, man? I wanted to add something.
I've got nothing specific other than having worked in the industry as long as I have and seeing the slate of titles coming up. My recommendation is take a good hard look at the backlog and take care of it, because you are not going to, once we hit the end of this year, especially going into February next year, like we've been talking about. There's just way too much coming out. And right now, as a couple people said in the comments, I mean, Astrobot's great. I've played that. Like it a lot. I've played a little bit of Space Marine. Love that too. But for me, it's like I'm out next week, so I won't be on the cast. I'll be listening in from Chicago when I'm visiting my family. For me, there's so many games right now. I'm just a little team up, and I don't have a chance to do that. And I recommend this to someone. Like I'm trying to run Road to Liberty, the MMO I mentioned earlier. I just hopped back into Diablo to get ready for the expansion. I also just hopped back into Helldivers 2 because the updates that have been so well received. It's been fun again, which is something I do always recommend people. And that's just, a couple itches I had to get scratched. So I can't recommend something specific other than you knock out anything.
I am that is resonating with me, because if you look behind me, the whole backlog behind me.
Yeah, not have time.
Yeah. I literally have a stack of PS4 games right there that I haven't touched. Like I need to play. So
I've got a friend of mine who, like, no matter how much I talk it up, and he's a huge fan of JRPGs, he has not played Persona 5, and he's seen me play it when it first came out. He's seen me buy Royal when it came out. I have the collector's edition for that. I have the music playing. He loves the style, the UI, the style of the game. He just never gets around to it. Something always comes out, but I know you love it.
It is definitely jarring to take on a new game, especially as an RPG. Yeah. I can empathize with your friend, especially if I don't have a lot of time. So
Yeah.
very small games, like I'll play a little bit of like SimCity, I'll play a little bit of Stardew Valley for like an hour, right? I think it's because like it's a commitment issue, right? So I can empathize with your friend, absolutely on that. So and jump a few rounds in Tekken or something like that. So
Yeah.
Wow. Well, with that said, man, we just
On that note, so happy.
we got a lot covered today, guys. And I feel like there's so much more to be chatting about. This is why, if you like what you guys see, you guys want to keep us, you want to keep it, keep the channel going and keep doing it more often than once a week. We'd love your support, via donation or whatever you can do. Just tuning in is perfectly fine. I don't have anything set up yet, but down the road, if you want to contribute directly to the stream, we'll get that easily done for you, even as easy as a QR code. Okay, so we'll get that set up for you guys. It's gonna go out to these guys. It's gonna go into production. Just more streams, more discussions all the time. Okay. So next week we won't have Nick with us, right? You're gonna be out of town.
Yep, visiting family.
All right.
But you may see me in the chat still, so we'll see.
Fantastic. Yeah, Ace, see you next week.
Indeed.
All right, awesome. All right, looking forward to it. I know this month is October. I'll probably be playing some sort of spooky game. I do like the Dark Picture horror trilogies. I usually play those once every year, or not. If not, I have the copy of Quarry down there, and I'll play that. Right, so I do want to try those out. But with that said, guys, we're a little bit over, but thanks for tuning in to the GQAzndood Gaming Academy, where every episode is a level up for your gaming knowledge. And if you enjoyed today's session, don't forget to hit that follow button and drop a review, even though we don't do reviews, or just give us an @ and tag us, so we know you're ready for the next quest. Until next time, keep your controllers charged, your save files backed up, and remember, every gamer knows when it's time to take a break. Just make sure it's after one more round.